YouTube channel, Little Ways, Little Things. I'm super excited this week because guess what's coming next week? Halloween. I'm so excited for Halloween, and we have a really special video for you today. I have my son-in-law, David Kennedy, here. He has a vlog on YouTube, and it's called David Kennedy. If you want to check him out, I'll also link it down below. But he and I have a special kind of a video planned for you today. We thought that in honor of Halloween, we would go through the 5 scariest episodes of the X-Files, or at least in our opinion, right?
Yep. So we're both big fans of X-Files, and we decided, in the spirit of Halloween, why don't we talk about the 5 scariest X-Files episodes that we've seen, and so far the history of the show. You want to start it out? Number 5?
All right, number 5, and we're going to go from the least scariest, in our opinion, to the most scariest. So in other words, number 1 will be the one that was really, really the scariest for both of us.
Yep.
We also thought that we would pick standalone episodes. So if you've never seen the X-Files and you're just looking for a creepy show to watch next week, you can step up onto any one of these and not be afraid that you're missing part of the conspiracy arc that kind of flows through the whole series. Here we go. Number 5, we chose Detour, and that was from season 5. And it's episode 4, and it did, I think it really did scare me. It creeped me out. How did you feel about Detour?
Yeah, so, I've never been a big fan of, going into the woods and getting lost, and this is exactly kind of that vibe that this episode does. I think it takes place in the Everglades of Florida. I think, Mulder and Scully are going to a conference. They run into a police officer that says there's been some trouble, some missing people. And then all of a sudden they find themselves, lost in the woods fighting this unknown creature that apparently has camouflage and no one really knows what it is. And so, it puts you in that atmosphere of just trying to do the right thing, and you just get lost in the woods and being hunted by some unknown, camouflage creature.
And definitely the scariest thing about the creature were the scary red eyes. Every time they kind of flipped to the creature, you could see the eyes peeking out from around a tree or in some grass, and it was really creepy. And don't watch it alone, because that will definitely scare you.
Yeah, every time that they showed the monster, it's hiding somewhere. It opens its eyes. You can kind of see it. The special effects, even though it was in the 90s, are still pretty decent. I heard that the makeup was really good. They cast it really well. I thought everyone did a fantastic job. But, it's pretty scary.
Pretty scary.
Don't go in the woods. It's basically the moral of the story. So
you won't want to go camping after you watch Detour.
No way.
Okay, the number 4 episode for us that we chose was Chinga. And that is definitely kind of a really touchy subject for me, because sometimes dolls tend to creep me out. And this is about a creepy doll, but I think the coolest thing that I like about this episode is that it was actually written by Chris Carter, who's the creator of the X-Files, but it was co-written by Stephen King.
Yep, the master of horror itself. Stephen King actually came in, co-wrote this episode with Chris Carter. Chris Carter's already the mastermind behind this. He's already got the tense moments. Add in the Stephen King factor. Man, you got yourself a good episode.
Yes, and you can't have a Stephen King story without having it take place in Maine. So the funniest thing about this one is that Scully is on vacation in Maine, and she runs into this case that deals with this really creepy possessed doll. So.
Yeah, I think we all have that grandparent that we used to go visit their house, and they always had that one porcelain doll in the corner of the room. Either it was a bedroom or the entry room, and you swear that thing was just watching you. The eyes would follow you back and forth. And this is just the classic episode of a possessed doll, a cursed doll coming to life and doing all these horrible things, So it captures this little girl, puts it under her spell. The little girl is able to do all of these terrible things. You get to see these horrifying images. I think the episode opens up when the people are in the supermarket.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everyone's eyes in the supermarket just starts bleeding, and it's just this terrifying...
They're clawing them out.
Yeah, they're clawing their own eyes, and then there's that really terrifying moment when you see the butcher, take the knife and stab himself in the eye. It really has Stephen King's handprint all over it. It's fantastic.
Does. It is fantastic. I love Stephen King, so for him to collaborate on this was it was a fantastic episode.
Yep.
All right, so let's take a look at number 3, which I have trouble pronouncing, but I'm going to give it a try. It's Folie.
Folie.
Yeah.
Let it roll off the tongue.
Okay.
Folie.
Folie.
Folie à deux.
But that, what that means is it's like a psychosis that gets passed from one person to another. So in this episode, it's actually Mulder that winds up going through kind of a psychosis where he can see monsters.
I associate with this episode so much because, you're at work, it focuses around the main character who's this guy. He's in a dead-end job at a call center. He really doesn't like what he does for a living. You can obviously tell that in the first scene. And, he can see that his boss is just this creature, this monster. But the way that they do the special effects in this is really good. They kind of blur the monster and he moves really fast. So you can't really... It looks like a cross between like a cockroach and just some like boogeyman type creature. It's really well done. Again, for the 90s. Very good special effects. I actually remember watching this when I was a kid. I used to stay up late, watch the X-Files, and... I used to watch them in the dark. I remember this episode very, very clearly, and it really scared me as a kid.
Well, I actually went back and rewatched this episode just to kind of refresh my memory on it. And I think the funniest thing about watching it now is that you can kind of catch the monotony of the job that the guy is in. He's in, like you said, this dead-end job. He's in a cubicle, which I'm about to go into a cubicle at work. But I think just the dead-end monotony of it, and then this creature kind of forms in his head, and it's just it's really cool to connect it to what goes on in everybody's day-to-day life. But the scariest part to me too, though, was when Mulder was chained to the bed and the monster is in the room with him and nobody else can really see it. And that's the stuff nightmares are made of.
Yep.
It's like you're in a dream and you can't really move and there's something coming at you. It's just really scary and creepy.
Yep. And I think it's kind of ironic too. I didn't think about this when I was younger, but the boss who's the monster, when he would finally turn his servants into, or, he would go and attack his coworkers and turn them into zombies. You kind of think of that as, you're the slave to the boss and you don't have a mind of your own. You're just a zombie. And, how can one person see that, everyone's just this zombie and no one else can see it? It's pretty cool. So,
yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
It's got that parallel between, is this really a monster or is this just your life really being terrible?
Yeah.
So
and it always leaves you guessing that episode. Yeah. Is there really a monster, or what did Mulder just kind of see something, or is there something else in play? So it keeps you guessing a lot.
Yeah, it's a really psychological kind of cool one.
Yep.
All right, the number 2 episode was Theef. And that was from season 7. It was episode number 14, and it was really creepy to me because of the hex factor, not the X factor, but the hex factor. It was a lot of creepy voodoo type stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, this episode, I actually remember the first time I saw this episode too. Now we're getting to the really scary ones, but there's just something believable. You can watch the Monster of the Week series where they have the boogeyman type episodes like the Detour one where you're like, well, those monsters don't really exist. But when you start watching about voodoo and magic and people start getting to like the dark arts of that stuff, it's a little more believable. So I remember this episode really scaring me. So this is the one where, you have the famed surgeon who's I think he's in the Bay Area in California.
Yes.
Just won an award for being like best doctor of the year or something along those lines. And then all of a sudden, one by one, his family starts being killed off in the just most horrifying, disgusting ways. His father-in-law, hung himself in the middle of the living room. His wife got melted in the MRI machine. And all of this was done by voodoo magic by the villain. So really, really creepy stuff. I remember telling you to watch this, and I'm like, it's going to scare you.
It wasn't, when I first sat down to make the list of my scariest videos from X-Files, this wasn't one that kind of popped up immediately. I tend to like the comedy ones, the ones that have a little bit of fun in them. But after I went back and rewatched it, it was really, really creepy, especially the whole voodoo kind of mystical witchcraft kind of thing. It was very scary. Witchcraft and possession, those are the two things that scare me the most.
Yeah, and don't be fooled too. This episode has some really good writing, really solid acting by everybody. Chris Carter even came out and said this is one of the easiest episodes to produce and watch being made because it was cast so well. The main villain guy, the doctor. I think James Morrison was the doctor. He's a fantastic actor. You've probably seen him in something. He's one of those actors that you recognize from everywhere. So he's really good in it. And it has a great story. And of course, unfortunately, this one doesn't have the happy ending, but it ends...
Not many of them do.
Yeah, that's true. So,
but yeah, I think the guest stars on the X-Files episodes throughout the whole series run was fantastic. It really added to the episodes. I love the chemistry between the regular characters, Mulder and Scully, but when you add some of these guest stars like Lucy Liu and people like that, it's just they really captured the art of being able to bring a guest star and make them part of the show.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. The number one scariest X-File episode of all time. And I don't think it's just us that feel this way because there were a lot of things that went into this. It was very controversial when it was first aired, and it was first aired on October the 11th, 1996. It's from season 4. It's episode 2, and it's called Home.
Yeah, no big surprise there. You probably had guessed this if you were an X-Files fan. You knew this episode was coming. It's been hailed and just given the crown of the scariest X-Files episode of all time. It's actually so scary, and a lot of people know this, they are not allowed to show this on network TV anymore. It has been pulled from the airwaves. You can only see it on reruns on the cable, or Sci-Fi or Discovery or whatever channel they
It was
show
actually
X-Files on,
banned from Fox.
Yep.
They banned it. It was so creepy and disturbed so many fans and so many people that they did kind of pull it, and they haven't really shown it again.
Yep.
But these episodes are all streaming on Hulu right now, and that is definitely, if you want to be scared for Halloween, that is definitely the one to watch.
Yep. And the thing about Home, too, I mean, it's got such believable characters again. Like, you can actually see, the backwoods type of family that's really strange. And I'm sure we all have that strange neighbor, that we live by. But you start seeing these neighbors and you're kind of just like, man, that it's not completely unrealistic that there's this family that lives in a house from the 1800s and they kind of keep to themselves and just something's not right, and it's got that small town feel to it. There's just one sheriff in town. Everybody knows each other's names. Everyone knows to stay away from that house. Nobody knows why you should stay away from that house. But, everyone knows, don't talk to the neighbors, don't go on their property. So really creepy. I remember I had nightmares for a long time after watching this. I was only 9 years old when this episode came out. Unfortunately, I watched it by myself in the dark at night. Could not go upstairs or to my bedroom by myself for probably 6 months after that. It was really bad for my parents. So,
well, this episode starts out with some kids playing baseball in a field, and their baseball gets hit over into these people's yard, and that's kind of how you start to get to know these people and how the town feels about them, and you just know there's something not quite right. But the writing was so good on this show. One of the things that's so intriguing to me is the scene where they kind of drive up and the sheriff is in trouble, and they have that Johnny Mathis song playing in the background. It's just so striking of a scene, and you can hear the music, but yet you're seeing what's happening. It's just wonderful writing, but it will scare the heck out of you.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I still, in my mind, I can still hear that song, and when you're a kid, you imagine things, and, when I was trying to go to bed at night when I was younger, after seeing this episode, I would start hearing that song in my head and would just freak out because it's such a lighthearted song, but when it's played in that context, when you're seeing someone being murdered, it really sticks in your mind, especially when you're younger, and it's just creepy. I'm getting the shivers right now. So
it is definitely an episode with a lot of contrasts in it.
Yep.
And once again, the acting, so good. The name of the family was Peacock. That alone, you're getting into some really shaky ground with a funky name like that.
Yep.
But yeah, I think a lot of people were scared of it. A lot of people were disturbed by the content, and we don't want to spoil too much for you in case you want to watch it. But the content itself was a little scary and creepy and disturbing.
Yep.
So be warned. I think it is the first episode to ever get a mature audience's rating on it from the X-Files. So it was pretty creepy and disturbing.
Yep. And once you see it, you'll understand why they don't show this on TV anymore. Like, you'll just get it.
Yes, you definitely will. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed our take on the 5 scariest episodes from the X-Files. I hope you decide to watch some next week. They're streaming on Hulu, and next week would be a perfect time to binge a few of these. Thank you for watching again, and make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below. I'm going to link David's channel also in the comments, and also hit the little bell so you can be notified the next time that I upload a video. And we'll see you next time.